speak to you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Please be seated. You might remember the flashback scene in the great movie Annie Hall. Alvy Singer is maybe 10 years old, and he's sitting in the doctor's office with his mother, and she tells the doctor that her son has become depressed after something he read. And the boy speaks up for himself. He says, "The universe is expanding, and someday it will break apart, and that will be the end of everything." And the frustrated mother shrieks at the boy, "What business is that of yours?" And she pleads to the doctor, he stopped doing his homework. The world must mean something. It is impossible to live if nothing matters. We remember the past, and we worry about the future. Faith, as ambiguous as it can be sometimes, insists that our world is not disposable, not an accident, not a story that ends in broken pieces of frozen darkness, but a world that God has made and takes seriously. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why is there someone rather than no one? For people of faith, the answer is not purely chance, a random roll of cosmic dice, though it can feel that way when we are given to ask, why? Why me? Why now? Nevertheless, we trust in a God who is creative. We trust that God is creative. Despite the tragic character of our world, we live in a weird, wonderful, beautiful world. We trust God doesn't just throw things into the world and allow them to exist, but gives life, delights in it, follows the story of the lives he has called into being. God is not closed in on himself, not solitary, not alone. God is festive and celebratory, loves a party. God creates creatures something like himself, not to dominate them, but to love them and to be among them. God is telling a long and difficult and strange story filled with drama and music and love, with comings and goings, with sadness and joy. We might imagine God could have been some other way. God could have been solipsistic, entirely self-involved, perfectly content to be alone, enjoying his own glory and magnificence, surrounded by birds singing songs about him, eating whatever he wanted to eat and never gaining weight, never having to put up with the prayers of much weaker, more selfish creatures. God could never have told this story. He might have just gazed in the mirror all day long in a golden throne room in pure joy. God could have done whatever he wanted, we suppose. But that is not the God encountered in Jesus Christ, born in a particular time, in a particular place, with a body, a voice, a history, a human mother. We get to know her. And Jesus is someone that we can know. If only we know just a little piece of his story, we can know him. We might look at the baby on a pile of straw, or look up at the man nailed to the cross. Jesus is someone we can know and know about, and who can know us back by miracle, by mystery, by the creativity of God. I am shocked all the time at this strange friendship I have with Jesus. He leapt out of the pages of a very old book and into my life, and has pushed me in all sorts of directions and led me into all sorts of friendships. Our Christmas Eve gospel, Luke's nativity scene, is filled with specifics of geography and bureaucracy. You feel history moving, organizing itself, counting, exerting pressure on the people in the story. In the middle of all this, the turmoil, the movement of history, a baby is born. A baby not born above all this, but born right into it, into the mess of time. The lines and the lists and the orders, his people being pushed around by the powers that be, told where to go and where to show up. Born to a mother who wonders at the call of angels who her son might become. He was born the way babies are born, a little anxiously, chaotically, pain and blood, humility and pride. And a baby needs its mother. A baby needs her arms. A baby needs someone to arrive when he cries out. God does not skip over this part. God chooses this. God places himself into the care of other human beings. God relearns the world he made by voices and touches and wanting and being hungry, by being picked up, soothed, known before he can know. God falls in love with the fallen world this way. Why is there something rather than nothing? God is creative and a gift giver. God shares the story flowing out of him. God makes room for us. But astonishingly, God has come into this room also, enters his own story with a beginning like we all begin, as a needy, vulnerable little baby. God submits himself to time, to weather, to not knowing, to learning, to being one among others, to suffering and death. This is how God chooses to know us. God does not skip over dependence. God does not treat need for a mother as a flaw to be overcome. We spend a great deal of our lives trying not to need others, placing a premium on our independence. We admire the strength needed to do things on our own. These are not bad things. This is growing up, but doing this in perpetuity can distort the divine story. The God we put our trust in enters the world needing help. The God we worship would not have survived his first night on earth without somebody waking up to care for him. God is not ashamed of this need. God chooses it. Why is there something rather than nothing? Because God delights in life as it is lived, in dependence on others, in relationship, in need, in love. From the very beginning, Jesus belongs to others. Beheld, named, nursed, he is loved before he does anything at all. That is not just the beginning of the story, it is what the story is about, the divine invitation into a shared, interdependent reality. This is how Jesus spends his life, not planning his retirement, but placing himself in the hands of others, them, eating with his friends, greeting the sick, letting himself be misunderstood, letting himself be handed over. God chooses something over nothing. A story, a history, a people, a person, a rescue operation, a spirit to help it all go. Not no one, but someone, God choosing to be and to be born. In the middle of history's chaos and pressure, a baby born. Warm flesh, sweet smelling breath, the purest need, by a mother's love, by the courageous adventure of new parents. This is why anything exists at all. New life. The call of new life, life that depends on the lives it is surrounded by. Life gifted into our care. Merry Christmas.